And thank you for joining us. This is it, the finals of the Columbus Open here on the SCG Tour. 2 weeks after the release of Oath of the Gatewatch, our standard tournament has come down to 2 decks. Reflector Mage just beginning to cement its spot among the staples of standard. 8 copies among these 2 decks, all in the main, each player collected, accompanying them out. For Jacob, it's a tempo deck. He gets efficient creatures, or right, for Andy, it's in a tempo deck. He gets efficient creatures into play and aggro's out. And for Jacob, they're blockers. He builds his way toward a combo finish. We'll see which one can prevail here in the finals.
Do you think more or fewer copies than 1,000 Reflector Mages were registered this weekend?
Boy, that's a pretty big number. We had 697 players.
4 copies in a lot of decks.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the decks that play it will definitely be playing 4. Andy on the play. 2 lands, he'll pass back. He does have a Warden of the First Tree and Sylvan Advocate. Neither of them here. For Baugh, a similarly slow start. And this is not exactly how I expected to see it begin.
No, Andy's passing again because he has Bounding Crisis.
Yeah, we've seen this one throughout the whole top 8. Were he to play a 3-drop main phase, he'd run the risk that Jacob would Reflector Mage it.
Yep, no reason to run that risk. With the Crisis at end step, then we'll be able to commit another creature. We'll still be able to attack even in the face of a Reflector Mage down the road.
So your question then, all right, if 700 players, 2,800 means that there could be up to 2,800 Reflector Mages.
So
if
it's less than
1,000 were
half.
Registered,
That's 250 players.
that's 5/14. So what we're looking at is you're asking me, are about 35% of the room playing Reflector Mages. In our top 8, 3/8 of the top 8 are playing 4 Reflector Mages. That's 37.5%. So the top 8 would seem to suggest, yeah, maybe around 1,100 Reflector Mages. If that's if the top 8's a representative slice, yeah, there's 1,000 Reflector Mages.
Wow. If you don't have your copies, you're going to need them.
Fortunately, they're uncommons.
Yes.
A card I think that could have easily been at rare. I like this play from Jacob. He's going to go with Catacomb Sifter on turn 3. Bounding Crassus for Ferguson will tap the Sifter. But this is a play where if I'm Jacob, I'm not very disappointed about this trade of things.
No, Andy's just going to attack for 3. These initial beats are not super important. What's going to matter in this matchup is how the board develops as we go into the later turns.
Well, both players should be able to collect and accompany each other without too much interference. Some rally decks main decking copies of Dispel. Jacob, no Dispels in the 75. Everyone's companies will be resolving. So a swing from the Crassus, and then, well, look, no 4-mana play from Andy Ferguson. We've seen this trick before, though.
How unlucky. Out of gas already.
A fetch from Baugh. He is down to 14 already. 3 fetch lands cracked, 1 Bounding Crisis hit.
That's less life than I would expect him to have at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fetching for every land, there are advantages. I mean, there are, I suppose not in this deck. There actually doesn't play any copies of Delve cards in the main. So it's...
They do help you flip Jace.
Okay, so if he had a Jason play, then this would be great. He's not 2 copies of Rally the Ancestors in hand. And if I'm in Jacob's spot, that's going to change, I think, how I fundamentally play this game. I'm just going to maybe chump block my way to those instants.
And I don't even know if that's a fundamental change. That seems actually like it's the A plan. Getting ahead on board against Andy's deck doesn't seem like it's super easy. Again, 2 3s versus 3 3s.
Big collected company here for Andy Ferguson. Options of Jace, Reflector Mage, Death Mist Raptor, I believe even another Bounding Crisis.
So obviously there's a both collected company decks. That's your value engine. Rally the Ancestors is going to be how Jacob's going to break through in a lot of long games. Is there any card more important in play than Jace Vryn's Prodigy? He likes not to take it, which kind of surprises me.
Well, Jace is a lot smaller than these other creatures. So maybe on Andy's side, the creatures that actually matter to him are just the big ones, you know, the 3 3s, the ones that hit hard. You see Reflector Mage goes ahead and bounces that token, which Jacob will scry in response. And Andy's going to go to, and it'll be a collected company back from Jacob.
Yep, using the floating mana off of that Scion. Not that it's really going to matter, but no reason to tap 5 or 4 lands when you don't have to.
Yeah, we're still on Jacob's turn 4 right now. The Andy playing collected company on Jacob's end step. Jacob casting collected company. while Andy's tapped out. Now, Andy doesn't actually have counter spells in the main deck, so he wouldn't have to worry about this getting countered if he wanted to let Andy untap.
Right. Just doing it now because we have a mana floating.
I'm a little curious about that, actually. So I don't believe Jacob has anything in the main deck that he can do with that 1 black mana. And by playing this now, he is opening the door to Andy main phase Reflector Maging some of these things.
Yeah, and it might just be a knee-jerk thing. You know, use every mana that you have. The only thing that Baugh could follow up with is a Sidisi's Faithful. It is a Sunken Hollow.
Sidisi's Faithful will exploit itself, bounce the Deathmist Raptor back to Andy's hand. It was a Liliana.
That's a good find with the Sidisi's Faithful.
So it'll get a zombie token. Now, he can't use the Planeswalker this turn because I believe we're still on Baugh's end step. But he does get a zombie back in play to help block. He can protect this Planeswalker. And not to mention, she can start getting back that Sidisi's Faithful every turn.
Pressure's on Ferguson to have some kind of tempo creature to try to pressure this Liliana. Unfortunately, it's going to take 2 things because that Reflector Mage does not do the job here. You do put it out of range of returning anything larger than the Sidisi's Faithful, at least on the following turn, though.
So we go back to Andy's turn. This is turn 5. He end-stepped a Collected Company, so did Baugh. Now Andy has free reign to want to keep that pressure on, up 20 to 14.
Yeah, and definitely by picking these creatures with power over the Jace, putting the pressure on is exactly what Andy is up to in this matchup.
So we see that Deathmist Raptor in his hand. That one he can't play. It was reflected.
So here's an interesting breaker that I spot in Andy's hand here. He has his single Warden of the First Tree.
Stand correct. It was bounced by Sidisi's Faithful, so he could go for that creature again. It looks like instead, Reflector Mage is going to get a 1/1 counter and fight Catacomb Sifter.
And we are a ways off of the Warden actually breaking this matchup open. But in the late game, if you can keep it around without getting Reflector Mage or Faithful, then that guy attacks through a lot of 2/3s.
Yeah, do you think that's possible, though? There's a lot of those in Baugh's deck.
It's not impossible. It is improbable.
Well, the swing there, by putting that 1/1 counter on Reflector Mage, Andy got up to 2 3-power creatures. He sent them both over Liliana. Jacob was unable to defend her, so he just let both attacks come in. Liliana off the board.
Yeah. The damage is going to be lethal one way or the other. You would only be throwing away the zombie by blocking.
5th land for Andy. It's a fetch for Prairie Stream. We'll see if he wants to recast that Death Mist, and he will. So now 9 power on the board for Andy Ferguson.
Ahead on board, but there's the ever-living threat of that Rally the Ancestors.
And Jacob has one. Jacob can keep jump blocking, and this is what Rally does.
He drew one of his 2 Elvish Visionary. That's a very lucky draw.
Surely it will pull him ahead in the matchup, and it will be his own copy of Reflector Mage. Bouncing Deathmist Raptor again. This time Andy can't recast it. And no intention of getting damage in with that zombie. He just passes back.
So Andy has taken lines so far to try to be the aggressor in this matchup, and as things stand, Baugh's board position is not particularly intimidated by Ferguson's. And he also has the Rally as the backup win. So this one looks like it is slipping out of Ferguson's reach.
The thing about Baugh is he has 2 copies of Rally. So once he sets up a high and big enough board, he can start value rallying. And that's one of the scary parts. The graveyard right now is Catacomb Sifter, Sidisi's Faithful, and Liliana. So there's no Zulaport Cutthroat or Grim Horror specs yet. That would certainly be the one that could seal the deal.
Mm-hmm. We do get access to Liliana, get a Planeswalker in play.
Yeah, she does not go back to the graveyard after Rally the Ancestors.
The Sidisi's Faithful allows us to sacrifice, keep something in the graveyard.
Three mana from Andy. See what it is. It's going to be another Reflector Mage. This one's a kill spell. It's going to take care of the token. And another swing for 6. Possible double block here from Baugh.
Yeah, these creatures belong in the graveyard anyway, right?
Yeah, this should be great. He's going to order double block the Krasis. And that's, I mean, you mentioned it. What a good Elvish Visionary there. It drew a card and traded with Bounding Krasis.
Yeah, and when he rallies it back, another card.
Just great. So the Warden of the first tree is the last play for Andy, and he immediately changes it into a 3-3. So 8 power on the board for Andy. He has Jacob at 11. Is it time yet?
Making it a 3-3 so that he can F6 through Baugh's turn.
Well, he's got to watch the clock, right?
Yes. These are untimed rounds, but, you know, slow play is still a thing.
Oh, I mean with F6ing. That's why you F6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Two rallies for Baugh. How greedy does he want to get with this? If he goes too low, he's going to have to worry about Bounding Krasis stealing games off him.
I would be very surprised if we were looking at a main phase rally here.
Sure. He knows there are no counterspells in Ferguson's deck, at least not in the main. And especially when you have a collected company, that's going to be the play. Though if this misses, Baugh could get killed. Unlikely that it will. 6 cards from collected company. Definitely a Reflector Mage and a Jace in there.
I've heard that those cards are powerful.
Those are good Magic cards. I'd take either of those, and he will take both.
Yeah, what about taking both? How do you feel about that?
That's even better than taking either. Jace into play. That's the 0-2. Here's Reflector Mage. So I'm noticing something about this battlefield here. If you, there's 5 creatures on it.
So,
one of them is one of them.
We have both players with a pair Reflector Mage. Baugh has a Jace kicker.
So we talked about how Reflector Mage may be a player in the standard format right now.
Maybe. I'm feeling a strong over on that 1,000 copies.
Yeah, maybe we're going to go with 2,000 for next week. Back to Andy. Has a Warden of the Tree and a Deathmist Raptor in his hand. We know about both of those. He cannot cast the Warden this turn because it was reflected.
Warden of the Tree.
Warden of the Tree.
There's
the
only one tree.
That's why he has to protect it. It's the last one.
Deforestation is a real problem on Zendikar. The Eldrazi are reckless.
Swing here. 2 Reflector Mages will double block a Reflector Mage. Jacob, no damage, and then a pair of Deathmist Raptors are the play. We're back to Baugh. Nantuko Husk was a pickup. That one's real good here.
Gives us that sacrifice outlet for our 100 copies of Rally.
Eiley is the draw.
Have a land. I guess we want the land.
Boy. He's discarding Eiley.
May as well put Eiley in the graveyard because everything is coming back anyway.
This is what I was worried about. If we got into this value mirror of who can play the more ground creatures, Andy's slightly more efficient at it, but nothing is going to get him past what's about to happen here.
And these pre-board games without those dispels.
Yeah, need a dispel for right now. Danger. There's no Zulaport Cutthroat yet.
So we're just not losing on every front. There's that. Fetch for no land, so keeping the Heath probably worse. Probably would have discarded that one to Jace. Or at least not taking 1 damage for nothing. Important to keep track of what lands are actually fetchable in your deck when you're playing these complicated mana bases.
Jace will be minus for Collected Company, and he's not rallying yet. He's still going for value. He's just setting up just setting up the best rally the Ancestors.
Who's going to stop him?
Not these Deathmist Raptors. I mean, they're going to kill all these creatures, but yeah, that's okay. That's kind of the point.
They'll be back.
All right, what does he have? We see Eiley here, the second copy.
Not a great find.
Nantuko Husk.
Trades with the Raptor. So
trades with the Raptor. That's great. That's better than dies to a Raptor.
Yeah. Raptors are ferocious predators, so being able to trade with them is pretty impressive.
Fortunately, the core have adapted their weapons to fight such monsters.
Yeah, they face a lot worse. For as terrified as I personally am of Raptors, Eldrazi seems scarier.
Well, the Eiley will certainly keep Reflector Mage at home. That's good news for Jacob. I mean, and he's at 10 life. Band Company has a lot of value, but I feel like you can go fairly low on life points and still be secure here. Oh, what Jacob doesn't have is that he doesn't have the Zulaport Cutthroat yet, which is why we haven't seen him start rallying.
Yeah, that's probably why he's just digging. He knows he has time, and when he finds that piece, it's just going to be lights out.
It's over.
Yeah.
He actually doesn't have Power Specs either.
That's true. So if the value rally doesn't generate that much value, only the one Elvish Visionary.
All right, so if this play from Andy, it's going to be last card, Sylvan Advocate. That's going to trigger. He does have its ability to be activated. It has 6 lands in play. He can activate the Lumbering Falls. So now it's a 5/5 hexproof. It will come across with both Death Mist Raptors. And it looks like Reflector Mage 2. I like this play from Andy. I think he's very aware of how little time he has to win this game.
Yep. One of us has to die. I want it to be you.
We will see. Eiley has Death Touch. Nantuko Husk, if he's willing to take a creature with him, certainly can block one of these. Yeah, and you look at it that way, Jacob's not actually going to take much damage here.
No.
One creature's going to get through. Everything's going to trade. Andy ignoring the Jace. Everything's going upstairs.
Yeah, what's Jace going to do? -2 a creature?
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter.
Can't flash anything back here.
Lumbering Falls. And we can't actually target that one.
Sure can't.
Jacob Baugh just deciding just how he wants to block here.
Yeah. Because what blocks could I make that leave me dead? Don't do those ones. Figure something else out.
Looks like it is. The Reflector Mage is going to be sacrificed to Eiley, not to Nantuko Husk.
Yeah, the life does seem important. We're only at 10. The Husk being larger does not seem important.
Oh, well, no, he's just going to win this turn. So he took 11 damage, but he gained 2. Oh, wow. So he's at 2. Down to 1 on the fetch.
Let's see if this polluted delta has a land to find. Got a Sunken Hollow in play. So he did find something.
And here, all right. Nantuko Husk going to sacrifice Eiley. Becomes a 4/4.
Yeah, floats the mana, realizes, well, this is kind of free.
All right, and here come the ancestors. All out of the graveyard. Got Grandma Eiley, Uncle Sifter, the whole family coming back to play.
Cousin Visionary. It's just not a party without Uncle Sifter.
He's a little weird. He's different than the rest of them, but he's okay.
He's real weird. You wonder if you're actually related. But then you see, okay, you are a 2/3.
Everyone's family tree is like that, right? So what do we have? 2 Reflector Mages, Sifter, Eiley, Sidisi's Faithful. Yeah, that should be enough. All right, bouncing 1. Bouncing 2. Sidisi's Faithful could bounce a 3rd one. I have to wonder if Andy is just dead here. There was 1 sacrifice to Eiley. There are 7 other creatures. Oh, one of them's a Liliana, so she'll make a zombie. And that should be enough, because if he does not exploit, that will be another pump on Husk. It's up to 6. Makes a zombie. There's 7 more creatures here. That's 14 more. That can make the Nantuko Husk into a 20/20.
Yep, and there was the Eldrazi Scion on the way as well.
Game 1 over to Jacob Baugh, comboing off fully in 1 turn with Nantuko Husk.
Okay, so it's possible, I will admit, that putting 10 creatures into play with 1 card is better than putting 2 3/3s into play with 1 card.
Yeah, this is the challenge for Andy, right? If games go long enough, Jacob's going to do this to him each game.
Yes. His only recourse is Dispel. Baugh probably bringing in Duress here to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, we look at the sideboards here for Andy Ferguson. Dispel and Disdainful Stroke.
So, what do you think about Frostwalker here?
We haven't really figured out what they're for.
I don't think this is what they're for.
I don't. You know, your opponent plays Elvish Visionary in their deck.
When your opponent Reflector Mages your creature, you can't cast it next turn. When your opponent Reflector Mages your Frostwalker, you can't recast it ever because it's dead.
It's dead. I don't like it here. Yeah, it's just going to trade with something bad.
Silk Wrap's good to bring in here.
Silk Wrap
Exile
seems great.
something. Try to get that Jace advantage.
It's really the counter spells, though. Andy's not going to lose to Jacob's creatures. He's going to lose to Jacob's spells.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so looking at Jacob's side of the board, he has a Felidar Cub, 3 Arishan Clerics, 3 Duresses. You said you'd liked those. Now, of note, there's no Dispel in this sideboard. He has 2 Fleshbag Marauders, a Liliana, a Kalitas, 2 Murderous Cut, and 2 Anafenza.
So Kalitas and Anafenza, they don't... There are Deathmist Raptors and Den Protectors. There is some relevance there. What's also quite relevant out on them, 4 Toughness. That seems like a good breaker here. I like bringing in these creatures. Murderous Cut, also good. Again, pressing that Jace advantage. The Marauders seem kind of meh. I don't think I like them here.
Yeah, Fleshbag Marauder. That's kind of playing into Andy's game, isn't it?
Right. He's just trying to Deathmist Raptor, Den Protector. You both sacrifice something. You both make up the value later. You're just kind of using 3 mana for no reason.
Well, that said, I mean, I could see him using it. It depends how many cards he wants to take out. I guess both of them trading a creature is fine. It slows down Andy, but...
Well, we know how Baugh feels about trimming Elvish Visionaries. He's probably looking to board those out.
Oh, my. So you're just throwing it away post-board, huh?
Yeah. Why bother? We're already at 2.
I'm in that camp. I don't really like Elvish Visionary post-board in this matchup. The 1/1 isn't really doing anything.
It's drawing a card, Matthias.
I like that. I understand. I don't know. We'll see what Jacob Baugh does as those two get ready for Game 2 here in our finals. Bant Company versus 4-Color Rally of SCG Columbus. Now, next week, we do not have a broadcast SCG Open. That's because there's the Pro Tour going on, but also because we have Star City Games Regionals going on this week. Get your game on for the first time with Oath of the Gatewatch in Modern. This is going to be taking place all over the country. We have 16 different locations showing up with a free playmat and exclusive pin to the first 200 people to show. So make sure that you pre-register for this great event happening all over the country. The regional championships. This is actually part of the SCG Tour as well this year, which means SCG points, if you're trying to get to the Players' Championship or maybe get buys, are awarded to players. On top of that, cash prizes and the top 8 will all receive an invitation to our invitationals coming up this year. Learn more about it at starcitygames.com/regionals.
The year is young. That's a lot of SCG points for winning. You get 15 points. That'll advance you towards being on the leaderboard. $1,200 in your pocket. That'll help you travel to more events. This is a good event to hit.
15 points, as many as you get for top 8ing a Star City Open. This match between Jacob Baugh and Andy Ferguson. For Baugh, we know he's planning to grind out lots of events this year. Part of Team Lotus, the traveling group that's playing together for these Opens, trying to put as many players as possible into the Players' Championship. And then Andy Ferguson, a second top 8 is going to put him near the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, and Team Lotus, very impressive showing this weekend, actually. 7 players in attendance, 6 made day 2, 2 made top 8.
Yeah, nearly had 3 as well. Kent Ketter losing a heartbreaker to Tom Ross.
Yes. Seeing the old post-sideboard pile shuffle. The shuffle that lets you shuffle more because it's not shuffling.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a superstition thing. For me, pile shuffling, I think the intention of it is to make sure that you have 60 cards.
Right.
So it's actually just a way to count your deck that's more efficient than counting it into one pile, because then if you lose track, you have to start again.
I pile shuffle every time I drop cards on the floor when I'm shuffling.
Sure.
Post-sideboard, I count my sideboard face up. Verifies that there's 15 cards out of my deck and the ones that I don't want to be there.
I usually pile shuffle into piles of 3, and I remember 3 different piles. I've been asked, well, 3's not very random. You should do more. And I said, I'm not randomizing. Like, 3 is great. I count to 20 3 times.
3 is good for counting. Counting should not be random.
I know that's something to be like, I do it in 7 piles. I'm like, 7 doesn't divide 60. Are we playing a 63 card deck? Then I guess we can do 7 piles.
Your methodology is rather awkward on 7 as well. You're not doing the same thing twice. You don't have a 3.5 card iteration.
Baugh will be on the draw here. So Andy Ferguson with Bant Company. Looks like he's keeping. Baugh is going to ship this one back.
So I've talked to a number of people about playing the 4-color rally deck, and the requirements for keeping a hand seem to be pretty low, actually. Most of what I've heard is you got 2 lands, you got a 2-drop, you got yourself a keeper.
Well, I mean, if you're just trying to chump block your way into a late game card, I don't know if it really matters what order you're chump blocking the creatures in, right?
Right.
Like, they're all going to the same place.
Yeah, there's a little bit more going on. You know, a 2-drop in 6 lands, definitely not going to work out. You'd probably want a 3-drop to follow up.
Yeah.
If you have 5 lands and you only have 2 or 3 of your colors, that's a problem too.
Eiley into Zulaport Cutthroat is certainly not as good as Jace into Catacomb Sifter.
Or Elvish Visionary in the Catacomb Sifter.
Well, I don't know that we can do that anymore. We're in the post-board games. Regardless, we are underway. Andy Ferguson on the play with Lumbering Falls. I'm going to trade some land drops here. Wonder if we'll get some early action out of Andy. He does have that Warden of the Tree, as well as a Sylvan Advocates.
We've seen him cast some face-up Den Protectors too, but if you have an Advocate, that seems a little crazy.
Well, he thinks the matchup is one where he has to be very aggressive. A face-up Den Protector is not crazy here, and that's actually the play he's going to go for.
There it is. Can't block that with a number of the creatures.
In the past, we kind of see this as an indicator of him not having a third land, is when he's been doing it. I am not convinced that's what's going on here.
Yeah, it could really break either way.
He's hoping that Jacob doesn't just play an Eiley. That would knock that one down a peg.
That'd be a little embarrassing. Well, we're representing Eiley mana.
I know Jacob has a Jace in hand. Maybe it's just that.
Yeah, can't block Den Protector with Jace.
Oh, that's a good one. But he has done double fetch and Forest there. It's not Eiley. It's not Eiley.
Okay, this is good. Wouldn't block Den Protector with Jace.
If you could. I don't know. That'd be very, very conservative use of a Jace.
You're just gonna rally it back. Okay,
oh,
we
wow,
do have
they're
Visionaries.
still in.
We do
they're
have
still
Visionaries.
in. Okay, Jacob, huge favorite. Elvish Visionary drawing a card.
This is the best possible start.
He'll take 2, go down to 16. Death Mr. After. How is that? He can't even play Reflector Mage there. I'm not going to Reflector Mage your Elvish Visionary.
Right.
You know, that is stooping too low.
He's gonna draw another card if you do that.
And also, well, that's actually not the concern. The concern is your 1/1's not deserving of the Reflector Mage. I don't even have to care about it.
Whoa.
What are you going to do? Block? Great.
Not the Den Protector anyway.
Right. You either don't have the option to, or it's fine. Third land from Jacob Baugh. It's going to be a basic plane. So he has his mana set up fairly well here. He has all 4 colors. He has single white, 1 more white, and he'll be able to cast everything in his deck. And it's going to be Grim Haruspex. I do like that with the Elvish Visionary. Let's have Elvish Visionary be even more card advantage.
Convert it into another card. Ferguson not rocking any Anafenzas or Kalidases.
That's a great point. You check for Anafenza, Kalidas, Hallowed Moonlight. Andy Ferguson 0.
Yep, he's on all Dispels. And Disdainful Stroke.
How many decks this weekend have we seen that haven't played any of those 3 cards? It just seems like everybody has one of them.
Yeah, the number's got to be just super low.
Reflector Mage will put the Haruspex back into Jacob's hand, and here comes a crash for 5. Elvish Visionary chooses not to step in front of the Death Mist Raptor.
Yeah, with the Haruspex out of play, that's a little less enticing.
And Jacob, his plan of chump block his way to a rally is becoming a tough one here. Elvish Visionary, though, he'll do a good job. That'll be Fleshbag Marauder. Getting rid of the 1/1. We'll see what Andy wants to have go with.
Yeah, we see that he did bring the Marauders in. They have a non-zero impact on the battlefield, so.
It's interesting. So Andy can get rid of Death Mist Raptor if he plans to flip up a Morph at some point this game, which it looks like he's going to do.
This face-up Den Protector does suggest that there's a second copy in hand.
He'll draw. Death Mist Raptor was the best creature with the best combat stats.
It's a 3/3. It's hard to be bigger than that. Everyone's just playing 2/3s.
3/3 is huge in this matchup. In the land of 2/3s, the 3/3 is king. He even has Death Touch if you double block it.
Yes.
Swing
Kills 2 2/3s at the same time. Not even Siege Rhino is capable of this feat.
Reflector Mage will trade away with Fleshbag Marauder. Den Protector, the little 2-1 that could. How much damage has he gotten off that since turn 1?
Well, Baugh's at 8.
Yeah, it's if you're wondering whether that was the right play, I'm going to just give a resounding yes. Andy's post-combat play is bad news for Baugh as well. It's a face-down morph, a 5th land. So if it flips up, it could be a Den Protector, getting back the Reflector Mage to his hand, bringing back the Death Mist Raptor. This is just... It's a lot of stuff on the board.
I mentioned earlier that Andy Ferguson is not playing Siege Rhino because Andy Ferguson is very smart. Probably also why he plays face-up Den Protectors. He just knows something that nobody else knows.
In this matchup, that damage is really going to add up. Baugh down to 7. A lot of creatures. Among them, Second Elvish Visionary. It's Jace, Nantuko Husk. But he's got to just know that the play on the board... Right, the play that Andy's representing is to buy back Reflector Mage
This
and
is a
get the
board
graveyard.
position that I'm not even sure Elvish Visionary is going to be good enough on.
I'm not saying something.
That is.
Here's the play we know about. Den Protector, getting back Reflector Mage, getting back Death Mist Raptor.
5 unblockable. The Death Mist Raptor is going to be able to be blocked, but you can bounce the Visionary, force him to block with Jace. Or the other way around.
Or he could play Silk Wrap and win the game this turn.
Yeah, I recommend this line.
That's a good one?
Yeah.
All right, game 2 goes over to Andy Ferguson.
Again, he's so smart. Chooses to win the game when he can win the game.
Well, impressive draw there. We're wondering whether or not Andy could aggro out the 4-color rally deck, and the answer there certainly looks like yes.
Yeah, we saw the sideboard Silk Wrap come into play there. We did not see the counterspells yet that we can be assured that they are in the deck.
But he didn't even need them, you know? No. If you're ahead, I mean, I think in all these games, actually, Andy's going to be ahead on the board up until the point where either Jacob casts a rally or dies.
Mm-hmm. So you do have to wonder if he's bringing in all 6 counterspells for that reason. You're only going to need 1 or 2 to keep you ahead, and if you get flooded on them, it becomes harder to actually establish a position in the first place. So players are revisiting sideboarding. Always a good thing to do in the finals of the tournament. Even if you don't change anything, always double check.
Yeah, and to remember that Jacob Baugh was on the draw there. He was on the mulligan. But at the same time, with Andy Ferguson's draw there of just curving creatures into each other and Reflector Mages, the fact that Jacob's creatures were all smaller than Andy's did seem to come back to get him. You know, Elvish Visionary matching up against Den Protector, Death Mist Raptor matching up, you know, maybe against the Nantuko Husk-size creatures, Jace's. It didn't really seem like a fair fight.
Yeah, Ferguson's deck is just great. I mean,
this is
every time
really
we
good.
compare it to any other deck, he's both beating that deck and seems to match up against it favorably.
It does seem really strong here. I mean, probably even has game against the Tarka Reds of the format. He's fairly low to the ground, a lot of 3/3s.
He's not afraid to cast a face-up Den Protector, an important element of winning that matchup for a lot of these slower green decks.
So we're about to get underway with Game 3 of the finals here at the Columbus Open. Winner of this is going to get 30 points on our leaderboard, maybe enough to propel them into the race. Andy Ferguson picking up 15 last weekend. So at the very least, he'll have 45. Anything he's got at other opens will be enough to propel him onto page 1. We see here Jeff Hoagland this weekend, a 10-5 finish, made day 2. He'll keep his first place standing at 89 points. Other players, Andrew Tenjum losing in top 8, 15 to him. That will put him neck and neck with Caleb Shear, someone who did not day 2. So those guys will be at the top. Remember, the top 3 here will get Players' Championship slots. Over on the second page, other players making deep pushes today. We see Joe Lissette at 49. He's in the top 8 of the Legacy Premier, of the Legacy Classic right now on Sunday. So that's really going to help.
I believe that Shear made the top 8 of that event as well. So not bad weekends for them either.
And we're underway. Game 3 here on Opening Hands. Baugh will be back on the play. And looks like it's going to be a keep on his side. And this time it's Ferguson going to 6.
Yeah, we saw some raised eyebrows at that hand. Looked like the face of somebody trying to justify keeping a bad hand, and he correctly chooses to mulligan it.
A lot of pressure on Ferguson to have a good draw here. If he stumbles, and you know, he just needs to be ahead on the board by a good margin, because if he stumbles, then we get into that game 1 where they just slog back and forth, and then suddenly there's 7 things in the graveyard. And
post-board, the counterspells can help in that situation, but you're absolutely right. Falling behind means you're going to have to battle board position while also representing those counterspells.
Looks like a re-sleeve here for Jacob. That stack of cards over there, those are his double-faced Planeswalkers from Magic Origins.
Chooses to use checklist cards.
You use checklist cards, you sleeve up the real guys.
Sleeve them up. I'm not afraid.
I'm that way too.
I'll riffle shuffle this $60 Jace. Thank you. I paid for it. I can do what I want.
You put it in a double sleeve, or you just pull it out straight as the card when you have to flip it?
Pull it out. Never double sleeve a standard deck.
I like playing the double-faced cards. Frequently I'm playing with someone else's cards, so I don't actually get the choice here, but that'd be my style too. If I were allowed to, I would not double sleeve them. Andy keeping on 6. The Scry looks like it's going on the bottom. And we're going to start with our finals match here. Baugh versus Ferguson. This one to decide it all. And players will trade tap lands to start. For Baugh, a Planeswalker in hand. He plays both Liliana and Jace. Looks like that's a Liliana, as he's going to start on Zulaport Cutthroat.
That's one that you always want to have show up sometime.
Sometime, it's not the one you want on turn 2. He is a 1/1.
Right. It is important to note that Ferguson can only possibly exile it with Silk Wrap, though, so as long as Baugh doesn't fall super far behind, just happy to have it, really.
Sylvan Advocate is the play for Ferguson. And now we get choices. Fleshbag Marauder and Liliana available for Jacob. So we go back to turn 3.
You usually want to have Liliana already in play when you cast Fleshbag Marauder.
So the worry is if he goes for Liliana, he's leaving himself open to Dromoka's command.
That is a problem.
I think he's going to do it anyway, though.
And the thing about Ferguson's deck is with these Bounding Crisis, he's able to leave up Dromoka's command pretty freely with a lot of hands.
You know what else? You know what other card he's open to right now? Reflector Mage. Because that just seems to be the card of the match.
Should have played around Reflector Mage.
You should have stopped playing creatures, right? That'll do it. That one's not really an option. Reflector Mage is just going to do work. We go back to Andy. Does he have one? Dromoka's Command, a Reflector Mage? We see, I believe, a pair of Collected Companies in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He'll undo that mulligan in no time.
He has a checklist card, which is, of course, Jace.
Jace is interesting on this board. I'm not sure. I mean, it's certainly far down the list of the thing he'd like to be casting. I think he'd like to have a 3/3, probably Reflector Mage or Deafmist Raptor near the top of his list.
Mm-hmm. Jace is at its best in this deck when you're able to cast it and leave up Dromoka's command, so you can just do 2 things in one turn. When you have 3 mana, you want to cast a 3-drop. Pretty basic idea there.
No play for Ferguson, or at least no play Sorcery Speed. He does play 4 Bounding Crisis.
Spends a lot of time acting like he had to play. Of course, he did have Sorcery Speed options, but it's not like he's passing because he couldn't do anything.
Back to Jacob, turn 4. Reflector Mage. Fleshbag Marauder, 3 lands. It looks to be the holding for Jacob. He's got to be so very careful.
Mm-hmm.
End-set Bounding Crisis can just make short work of Liliana.
Absolutely.
He's going to fetch for a 4th land. We'll see where he wants to go from here.
Yeah, you got to be worried about the Dromoka's command with the Fleshbag Marauder. Though you do kill the only creature on Ferguson's side. So it's not all downside.
So reaching for 3 mana. I'll leave up single black and blue, maybe for that Dispel. Then we know he doesn't have one. Fleshbag Marauder is the play. All right, Andy's going to choose Sylvan Advocate. Jacob chooses Zulaport Cutthroat.
Oh dear.
Without a Crisis there, that's a good spot for Jake. Liliana will flip.
Even with the Crisis, we now have the Fleshbag in play.
Yeah.
You're able to tap the zombie and get at, or tap the the Fleshbag Marauder is a zombie, so you can tap the Marauder and make a free attack at the Liliana, but
Jacob's going to plus the Liliana. He could have reanimated the Zulaport Cutthroat. Instead, he'll plus Liliana. Discard one of those extra lands he has and pass the turn back over to Andy. And Andy did have the Bounding Crisis.
Surprise!
Well, at some point, I wasn't actually sure anymore.
I just don't even know what to believe.
Fleshbag Marauder was tapped by the Crisis, and now it'll come at Liliana. Jacob, he'll let her go down to 2 loyalty. And no fourth land for Andy. This is a reprieve for Jacob. With a fourth land, we are going to see consecutive collected companies, but nothing of the sort right now.
Yeah, this is looking bad. Liliana has options. We can pressure the hands of both players. We could just return that Zulaport Cutthroat to play.
Draw for Jacob Baugh, a big one. It was another piece of the puzzle. It's Grim Haruspex. So now he has the Haruspex, he has a Reflector Mage, and a land as his remaining cards. Has double white already in play. Single of every other color. Double black. Mana is set up. Liliana's going to plus to 4. Let's see if he's discarding the Haruspex of the land. I'm guessing it's going to be the land.
I think he actually reached for a spell, and oh, that is the land. Okay. The argument for keeping the land is you can play land spell this turn, and then you are empty-handed for Liliana. You only have to be able to cast one spell, and then you're only making Ferguson discard. But you know, any land off the top would make that possible next turn anyway.
This in-play Liliana, I mean, last turn, Andy needed to draw that fourth land. You see he had to discard one of his 2 collected companies to Liliana. Now Reflector Mage bounces Jace. He's still trying to keep Andy off that fourth land.
The mana issues are just allowing Baugh to win on board, and that's supposed to be Andy's game.
Yeah, just Baugh is stealing his strategy. Andy down to 13. He'll swing the Krasis back at Liliana. Andy did draw land 4, though, and played it pre-combat.
Yep, it was getting down to the point where it might have been too late. It's possible that we are on time here.
Legacy finals here playing out over in the room as well. Joe Lissette versus Andrew Jessup. Not surprised to see that kind of match playing out over in Legacy.
Not at all.
Joe not dropping a match on the tournament.
Yeah, a bit of a cakewalk for him. Again, man plays miracles for fun.
It's a lot of magic. It's a lot of time.
Every round is a lot of
magic.
magic.
A lot of time. I mean, I like magic, but man, that's, whew, you don't give me breaks.
Yeah, Joe's not playing a deck that enables him to eat lunch very often.
Liliana will plus again. This time it gets the Grim Haruspex from Jacob and the Sylvan Advocate from Andy. Catacomb Sifter is the play for Baugh. 5 creatures on the board now. Andy's going to have to come back from so far behind here. We've talked about how Andy needed to be ahead on the board to deal damage, and that's just not happening here.
No, he needs a good hit on this collected company.
Company will be cast. Den Protector, Deathmist Raptor. Those are the only 2 creatures. He doesn't have a decision here.
This is not a good hit.
That's not good enough.
Wanted a Reflector Mage quite badly here, even there.
Even there, that would have been an uphill battle. There's 5 blockers on Jacob's side. The draw was Den Protector for Andy.
At 4 mana, not great.
At 4 mana, not great. He does now. It's a start, right? He can Den Protector back for a Den Protector for a collected company. This gets the engine running.
We're able to trade the Deathmist Raptor for the Fleshbag Marauder if we want, because the Den Protector will return it to play.
Okay, so he can start this value game. Now, there's a lot of things that have to go his way. He needs Jacob not to draw a rally.
Yep. Does not have access to Dispel to stop any shenanigans.
So with those creatures in play, we're going to see what attacks Andy makes. It's going to be both 3/3s over at Liliana. Fleshbag Marauder going to go in front of the Deathmist Raptor. Now looks like a double block of Reflector Mage and Zombie Token for the Bounding Krasis. Those will be the plays. Could get blown out by a Dromoka's Command here. And he doesn't have one, however.
He does have a little bit of advantage to spew at this point, though. Keeping that Liliana in the play is going to enable him to generate value down the road. So you find out if he has it, and you make him have it with this line.
And remember, he's going to get scries off these Catacomb Sifters, off these from the Catacomb Sifter, off these death triggers. It's going to mean that he can work his way toward the Rally of the Ancestors. And we'll see, does Andy have anything before damage? He'll order the zombie first. So, a double trade. 2 scry triggers from Jacob. And that one's got him thinking.
In the meantime, Ferguson hand Jace Den Protector. Unless he wants to play that Protector face up, which again, he really wants to morph it for this Deathmiss Raptor, he's going to have to discard one to Liliana.
Jacob decides to leave a card on top of his deck. Andy will go ahead and let Jace go. He'll play Den Protector. We'll see. What did Jacob keep on top? It is Anafenza the Foremost. Oof.
So the Deathmiss Raptor did already hit the bin, so it's not going to interact with that. So that is a little bit of a silver lining on Ferguson's situation. But
yeah,
Anafenza does hit hard.
It's good enough here. Reflector Mage, though, the draw from Ferguson.
That's a good one.
He still has a chance here. These Den Protectors mean business.
And we don't have to return that Deathmiss Raptor to play right away. We can take a turn off and cast the Mage.
Now, it seems like a priority here, though, for Ferguson is going to be get this Liliana off the table. She's just doing so much work. Now she can start -3ing to bring back Fleshbag Marauder. There's all sorts of reasons she needs to go.
We just don't have great attacks to achieve that end. The Reflector Mage can bounce the Anafenza, but we can't flip up the face-down Den Protector to actually connect.
So he has no way to deal damage this turn.
Yes.
Well, in that case, he knows then he'll either have to discard the card in his hand to Liliana, or he'll lose a creature to her other ability.
Just past his turn, it does leave Baugh to think about the possibility of a collected company.
And the top deck for Baugh is huge. It's a copy of his own collected company. This one could bury it. Top 6 cards. What creatures does he find? He has got a Planeswalker. He's got an Nantuko Husk. He's got a Reflector Mage. There are a lot of options here.
Not necessarily great targets for Reflector Mage here. So yeah, not surprising to see him pass on that one.
Husk and Jace. More importantly, 6 creatures in play. Andy's at 13. This one's going Baugh's way. It's going there in a hurry.
The Liliana is able to bring back Fleshbag Marauder. We know that the Deathmiss Raptor is going to be coming back into play for Ferguson.
Liliana pluses, that gets the Reflector Mage out of Andy's hand.
Though Ferguson does have a pick at any card in his graveyard for his next turn.
Sure. But remember, not Reflector Mage. It's exiled from Anafenza.
True. He's probably looking at Collected Company, though.
So pass. Here's the Den Protector. It's going to flip up. That'll bring back Deathmiss Raptor. And what is the pick for Ferguson? It's going to be Collected Company. But this ground stall, 3 creatures Ferguson's side, 6 Baugh's side. It's just waiting for a Rally of the Ancestors to break it up. And because of this Liliana on the table, Andy's plan of sitting back with a counterspell for Rally of the Ancestors, I don't see it working.
Again, Andy's plan needs to be ahead on board and stay ahead on board. He's behind on board, so he needs to claw back into this game just in play. Baugh with the Planeswalker in play, another one that's going to flip into play on the following turn. He's just so far behind. He's going to claw back in. If he manages to even get on parity that way, Rally is just going to break it right back open.
And how about Liliana, who actually is getting close to her ultimate ability? This is we don't see this very often, but the emblem of whenever a creature you control dies, bring it back to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the end step with Nantuko Husk. How about that?
Nantuko Husk and Reflector Mage and Catacomb Sifter.
It's not just your turn, by the way. It's every turn. So we're Reflector Maging twice a turn. That's not beatable.
It's not remotely beatable. Unless Baugh just forgets a bunch of return to play triggers and has a bunch of exiled creatures.
So here's the company from Ferguson. He's going to get Advocate and Reflector Mage. Other cards at the bottom. We'll see what he reflects. And Ferguson is establishing board presence. His creatures are becoming the bigger ones on the board. He'll bounce Jace to Baugh's hand. Does not want that flipping and casting Collected Company.
No, that would be bad.
Tough choices, though. I mean, like I said, we're getting really close to a Liliana emblem. That's not any better.
There's an Anafenza that is making all of our attacks quite bad.
The Deathmiss Raptor can swing. That is
Yeah.
That is it. I mean, next turn, if Liliana gets up to 9, Andy's going to have to send the team at her, right? Can he possibly beat this emblem?
No, it's not remotely possible. He has to find a way to try to break through here.
So either this turn or next, I think the team's going to have to come. Here's a swing of Deathmist Raptor at Liliana.
What you're hoping to do this turn is get the Onofenza off the table. You hope that that's the block. Doesn't look like it's going to be. That would enable at least a 3-power Den Protector to be unblockable unless an N2 has sacrificed something. The way things stand, both the Onofenza is still in play and the Husk threatens to be able to block that Den Protector. There are more creatures on Ferguson's side of the table than on Baugh's, though.
A Scion Token and Reflector Mage double blocked the Death Mist. They will both die, both cards scry to the bottom. Anafenza means that Deathmist Raptor of Ferguson's is exiled. This does mean if we get a Liliana emblem, Baugh does not have Reflector Mage with Nantuko Husk. I know, small consolation prizes here. 2 cards in Baugh's hand. One of them's a Jace that he can't play. So if he wants to put Liliana up to 9, it will cost him his Planeswalker.
I'm going to go ahead and say that it's worth it.
Can be. At the same time, he could minus Liliana and just go back to a value plan, you know, get back a Fleshbag Marauder, get back a Reflector Mage, continue this grind.
Yeah, what he's assessing right now is what's the worst case scenario for Ferguson pressuring this Liliana. If he comes up with something that's going to make this plan bad,
if he draws a company and hits 2 Reflector Mages, that's probably
that's
right.
Really bad for us.
That's the worst. That's the worst thing I can think of. We see a plus from Liliana. It's going to be a Bounding Crassus from Andy's chosen and a land from Baugh. Remember, Baugh cannot play the Jace in his hand because it was reflected last turn. And now Liliana threatening to emblem.
Ferguson has enough creatures to attack the Liliana that guarantees that one will connect. The downside of that is that the Catacomb Sifter eats the 2/1 Den Protector and Anafenza eats the 3/2.
And that the Sylvan Advocate's only a 2/3.
You also just aren't killing Liliana.
No, you're putting it off by 1 turn. I mean, right. The problem is that Jacob can kill any 2 of. This is horrible. This attack comes with all sorts of things I don't want to have happen. Not if I'm a Jacob Baugh fan. Andy needs a Dermoka's Command here, something like that.
Yeah.
He knows Jacob's last card's Jace. If he had one, it would do work. A Bounding Crassus, that would be good too.
Yeah, helps punch through a little bit. The real issue here, we have these lines that are quite bad at pressuring Liliana. Baugh's at 20.
Yeah, I mean, that is... Right, so we're first talking about board control and how is Andy going to get board control, and then once we finally get to that point, if Andy ever does get board control, and I'm not sure he's going to, then we have to talk about life totals. The fact that Jacob's ahead, he can still just top deck a rally at any point here. That plus a land would almost certainly be lethal. But if Andy, his other option is to let the emblem happen. Right now, all that means is that Jacob would get another Catacomb Sifter every turn. So just an army of Scions would start showing up.
That's what we call inevitability.
It's good, but an army, a Scion on every upkeep, so, kind of like a Verdant Force ability, is really good, but it's probably beatable. But it would only last for a little bit of time until Jacob found, an Elvish Visionary,
anything
a
at all.
Zulaport Cutthroat, a Grimhara Specs,
A non-land permanent.
a Reflector. And once he finds a Reflector Mage, the game's over.
Yes, absolutely.
So here's a swing at Liliana. Everybody at Lily. We'll see. It looks like Jacob wants to take care of both the Den Protectors.
These are the blocks that I was expecting. Can throw the Husk away.
Yeah, I was wondering whether or not, you could trade the Husk and block with the Sifter. Then Liliana will only take 2 damage, and you can just plus her again next turn.
True, and you've removed 2 creatures from your opponent's board. You now have Sifter and Offensive versus 2 2/3s. Ferguson is 2 lands off of making that Advocate of 4/5.
Little surprised that he wants to. Oh, yeah, he's going to let Liliana take 4. Doesn't want to lose any creatures. So he takes the 2 Den Protectors down. They're both exiled. Liliana takes 4. You know, I've never seen that emblem in play yet, and I was thinking it might happen.
Right.
There's still a chance, but...
Baugh says, I'll just win the honest way.
Death Mist Raptor's the post-combat play for Ferguson. Draw from Baugh. Reflector Mage, that'll play here. A little awkward.
I've heard good things about this card. He can't cast it and Jace. So
yes, then maybe we can't plus Lily anymore.
Now that Liliana has gone from 9 to 5, perhaps we should just be bringing a creature back with it.
Working all day.
Exactly.
Jace is the play for Baugh.
Life of a Planeswalker is not easy.
You go from 9 to 5, and then they just ask more of you. Here's Grimhar Specs out of the graveyard.
And they expect endless loyalty.
Isn't that the truth of it? With Harspecs in play and Nantuko Husk, this is a great setup for Jacob. Land for Ferguson, no attacks. Feels like we're reaching the end here. Jace will flip and get back Collected Company next turn. And I don't know if Andy can come back once that happens.
Every turn cycle makes things look just a little bit worse. We are past the point of Baugh having that impossible value engine of the Liliana emblem, but
that was sweet. That he would get style points for winning that way. Now he may not get. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. But a win's a win.
Exactly. When you have that trophy in your hands, you're not thinking about the style points you could have achieved.
I'm always thinking of the style points, those never go away.
My trophy did come winning with the Delver of Secrets through a choke.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Ryan Overture, for those who don't know, still the reigning and only Star City Games Des Moines champion.
It's true. Of Legacy.
Only of Legacy.
The standard Open champion was every Brandon that played the tournament. Brandon Ayers and Brandon Nelson, co-champions.
I believe Brandon Downs and Brandon Nelson.
Right. My apologies. Maybe there was a Brandon in attendance that didn't win.
Jace will discard Kalidas to flip. That is a show of strength here from Jacob.
You have the Anafenza.
Was that Des Moines tournament that was 3 years ago, 4 years ago? It doesn't matter. The title, I think it may be your title for life.
You're making me sad when you spit out these numbers.
The one and only. Reflector Mage. Going to go into play. Bounces Sylvan Advocate. I like that combo. Bounce and then Liliana Plus.
Baugh can do whatever he wants. And
Andy Ferguson decides he wants to play no longer. And there you have it, 2-1. Jacob Baugh, 4-color Rally is your SCG Columbus champion.
You'll recall earlier in the tournament, we watched Rally lose on camera a whole bunch of times. I kept saying, don't let that be indicative of the format at large. And here we have it. Rally wins the tournament.
In the Swiss, Rally winning, losing I think almost every match on camera in the Swiss, then speeds through the top 8. And it is Jacob Baugh that takes down the tournament.